Welcome to The Route to Revenue, two entrepreneurs sharing the path to curbside cash flow. I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. We're both founders of two successful recurring revenue businesses in the home services industry, and we've built our companies from startup to profitable and scalable operations.
This is the show for entrepreneurs serious about building sustainable home service businesses. Whether you're starting out, scaling up, or ready to move beyond trading time for money, we share proven strategies for creating predictable monthly revenue streams.
And while our expertise comes from the bin cleaning industry, the systems and principles we discuss work for any recurring revenue home service. Think lawn care, pest control, pool maintenance, and beyond.
Each episode, we break down real-world strategies for customer acquisition, retention, operational efficiency, and building systems that generate consistent income while you step back from daily operations.
Are you ready to transform your home service businesses from a demanding job into a profitable asset? This is The Route to Revenue.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Route to Revenue. I'm Ben Magee with Green Can Cleaner, and I'm here with Mike from Spiffybin.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
Mike, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about hiring. Hiring the first time, hiring properly, how to vet, onboard, and get your employee effective faster. And hopefully not make a mistake while you do it. And if you do, you'll be unlike either Ben or I. So, because we've all made our mistakes.
We've made plenty of mistakes, especially with hiring.
Yes, absolutely. So, you want to lead it off, Ben?
Sure. So this is a little bit of a tie-in to I think it was episode 7. We talked briefly about this, about when you should hire. And today we're going to talk just about the execution. And this is where most operators leave a lot of money on the table and create a lot of pain for themselves. So the first thing that you've got to do is you've got to have a mindset shift. You're not just hiring help. You're not just looking for someone to do this little project. You've got to look at the big picture, and that's building a team. I don't know about you, Mike. My first hire was actually kind of out of panic.
Mm-hmm.
I was just maxed out, and I needed someone to just run a couple of days a week so that I could do things. And now, so when I think about my first hire, that's not actually true, because I think my first hire, I always think about the truck, but I forget that I hired an office manager first. And I will tell you that lady was amazing. She came in and was a friend. She was way overqualified for the job and was kind of semi-retired and doing some projects, and said, "Oh, let me come and help you." And what she accomplished in a day put what I could do to shame. So, but then the next hire was someone for the truck and to help get me a little bit of time off and make it to where that I wasn't just completely burning out. So I think the first thing that I would say is when we're talking about that mindset shift, rather than being reactive about hiring, be proactive.
Oh, Ben. That's easy to say. I mean, because you're sitting 8 years in, you forgot more than you remember, employee wise and what the days were like back then. I mean, right now I look at you and you're wearing a button-up shirt with your name on it, with the green can cleaners. Come on. I mean, it's easy to say that, but in reality, what happens? Like you said.
Well, tell us about the reality, Mike. I know it wasn't the peaches at Spiffybin, so tell me about that reality.
I don't know if it's reality or horror story, right? I mean, ultimately, and that's what ends up happening. I think a little bit. You get so far. You mentioned it. You were burning the candle at both ends. You were. Absolutely. You'd run all day. First of all, I don't know if you'd wake up, you'd enter the people that came in the night before, then you'd go jump on the truck And hell, some of us, at least I did, I started at another job at 4 in the morning. So I would do my real quote unquote job from 4 in the morning until noon, so I could get out, early and go do that. So, at breaks, I'd be entering people in, and then I'd go out and grab the truck and I'd go run and, take phone calls while you're running because people would see it and do all this stuff. And you're ragged. And if you're not ragged, then you need to figure out how to get yourself ragged, I think, first. um and the proactive thing, boy, I agree that would be the way to do it, but I don't know that that's a true way that most people are doing it.
Well, and I guess that's the point, Mike, is our show is meant to help people and to
That's
maybe
true.
allow them to avoid some of the mistakes we made. Wouldn't it be nice if someone actually looked at this proactively, and even if they're not to that stage, they
Sure.
started doing things like writing a job description and taking the time to do that? Because, I mean, I can tell you that, the first driver that I hired, I was like, yeah, the job description, go clean
Right,
cans,
right, right.
jump in,
Put gas in it
you
once in a
know?
while. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I mean, we are trying to be more educational, but there is a little part of me that says you guys should all live the hell that we live too.
Well, it is the
But
I don't think I think if you're operating a business or starting a business, I don't think there's any way to get around
yes,
that there's going to be some hell
yes.
involved.
But you're right. I forgot I guess if you quote unquote my first hire was my mom. She would answer that. She's like, you can't be running around answering phone calls, blah, 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 blah. And so she, I got her computer and, she'd answer the phone 3 days a week or something for a few hours here, a few hours there, in between her old timers clubs, we call it, where she goes to the rec center and does all of her clubs there. But it was helpful. And, and maybe that's your first hire, is a part-time person, right? Because there are times, where you're again burning the candle at both ends, and it's hard to do day in and day out. So yeah,
Well,
I
here's the
agree.
other thing. Here's the other thing, Mike, and the point that I think we should make here. Hire for your weaknesses.
Hmm.
That doesn't necessarily, I mean, in the home service industry, we keep hearing, oh, get out of the truck, get out of the truck, get out of the truck. Work on your business, not in your business. But when you're starting out, I mean, most guys that are cutting lawns or cleaning trash cans
Pools.
or pools or whatever else they're doing, um, most of them are not going to be good at sitting at a desk at this point in their
I'm
life.
still not.
I know that I was, and I'm still not, if
Yeah,
I'm
I'm not
honest.
either.
I mean,
But
we make light of that. I can be at my desk for about 4 hours a day
yeah,
total,
yeah,
and a lot of times that's broken up in 1 hour
sure.
increments.
And I think what you're saying is
But
is currently most operators hire from desperation, right? They are just done. They are done, done, done. And instead, maybe you should try to hire from a position of strength. It's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be, set up. The one thing I thought about when you said, work on your business versus in your business. The hard part in the beginning is working on your business actually doesn't pay you anything that day. You know what I mean? So like at some point you've got to mix that too, right? You've got to get paid, which is working in your business. But in order to not have to be working in your business, you got to work on your business so you can get to that point. It's kind of like a yin and yang kind of deal, I guess.
well, and that's my point is, so luckily for me, my very first hire was Carrie. And like I said, Carrie was way overqualified for the job. I didn't know what the job description was. And she was like, just Ben, just tell me what you want me to do. And I was like, well, let's start with fielding requests. And so she did that. And then when she got into our CRM, she went, hey, you've got people that owe you money. Let me call them and collect. I
Right.
went, oh, good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. Love it.
Good idea. I haven't had time to do that. And, it just led to different things that she did, which then we were able to look at what we consider an office manager position and a CSR position. And to her credit, she actually, I mean, like I said, she was so overqualified, it wasn't even
Right.
funny. And didn't want the job
Uh,
forever, but wanted to help me.
you know,
And so the bottom line is she helped me move those things along and nail those job descriptions down as well.
well, and it sounds like you hired somebody to replace you. So her being overqualified, is that really much of a stretch? I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just messing
Yeah.
around. Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right. 100%. So okay, so great. So we've decided we need to hire somebody. What steps are you looking at? Obviously, I guess you got to come up with some type of job description and or an ad.
Well, and in today's day and age, and you've got to write a job post. Everything's a post today.
Sure, sure.
And Mike, I'm going to guarantee that your first job post said, "Now hiring for Spiffybin. Come be a driver and clean trash cans." Who's responding to that?
Right,
You
right.
know. So how do you make that interesting? How do you write a job post that actually attracts the right person?
I think you have to look at the job and what are some of the positives. And for me and for a lot of people, being your own boss. They're running their own route. They're working outdoors. Maybe they like to work outdoors. I mean, it's hotter than bejesus in the summertime, but you know what? There's a lot of other times of the month the year where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to work out and it's 72 degrees every day. It's beautiful out or whatever. I can run my routes. I like to stay active. I like to, be walking between, I can get my workout done while I'm working at Spiffy Bin and getting paid. Different things like that would attract people. I
Here's
Oh God.
here, here's another thing that and I forget what podcast it was that I picked this up, but they said, your job posting, especially if you're posting it on your Facebook page and things like that, it actually is an advertisement to to new clients as well. And so if they see that you're going to do the mandatory drug testing, you're going to do a background check, you're going to do these things, then customers, clients, potential clients will look at that and go, oh, wait a minute. They actually have someone who's drug tested and background checked and has a clean driving record. And,
I feel safe with them
then,
pulling up to my house with my kids playing ball in the front yard. So I
right.
can hire
Yeah.
them to do the cleaning of my bins, which I frankly hadn't thought of. And you're right. And hiring has changed, right? We used to, ad in the newspaper, right? I don't even know if we have newspapers anymore. And then it went to online boards, and then now it's wholly online boards. And but it's also you take that ad and you're probably going to share it on your socials. You're going to share it on your company socials. You're going to share it on Nextdoor. You're going to share it on the patch. There's a patch thing. You're going to share it everywhere, right? Because you just want to get the word out. And you're right. Subtly, it's a little bit of an ad for the company, while also being an ad to get your next employee to get you out of the truck, for sure.
It is. So how do you screen and vet? I mean, what actually are the predictors that you see for success?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I want to have them doing some type of motor vehicle operation already, to some extent. I kind of have to see them doing some physical stuff. I kind of have to see longevity in a position, right? I mean, I don't want to see every 3 months he's hopping, because the facts are when you hire somebody, you do go backwards. You go backwards for a time being, but then once you get them out of that training, you're going forward. You're now what used to take you all day doesn't take you all day. It takes somebody else all day. Do you have to pay for them? Sure. You got to do workers' comp. You got to do insurances. Your insurance may or may not go up on the truck. Oh, speaking of which, you want to make sure somebody's got a good driving record. Because if they don't, it'll cost you a fortune. First of all, insurance already costs a fortune. You throw somebody with a questionable or a curveball in his driving record, and you basically they're struck out. I mean, I remember one time we had a guy, and my thing was I would I'd hire them and they'd come in. We would do 2 days on the truck with me driving, and then in theory they would drive 3 and 4, day 3 and 4, and then 5 they would have a light route until we got everything squared away. Well, I did things a little differently back then, and I would get their driver's license after day 2. Turns out this guy, so we're in the car, and I put him on speaker. I'm like, hey, I got to put this guy on my thing. Oh, okay. Do you know what, whatever. And so they throw him in, and they said, oh, well, your rate's going to be, I don't know, $4,000 more a year. And I'm like, what? And she's like, well, he had 3 failure to, I don't know, whatever, where you rear end somebody. Probably failure to stop before you hit somebody in the ass. But he had 3 of those, and then he had something else like with a cell phone violation. And I was like, oh. And so we get off the phone. And I got to tell you, it was a little awkward because he was right there. He goes, so is this going to hurt my chances? And I'm like, yeah. Like, at the end of the day, these trucks, yes, they're valuable and they're expensive. But more importantly, or equally as important, you don't just go to Enterprise and rent one of these trucks. So like if you crash, I'm out of commission for 5 weeks or 4 weeks or who knows how many weeks. I don't know. It could be forever until I get another truck. So yes, it was critical. So that's kind of the vetting, and then of course background checks and drug screens and reference checks. Which are often underused. I don't remember the last time, and I haven't had a ton of employees come through, but I don't remember the last time I got a call, if ever, for a reference check on any of the people that worked for me. I don't think people are doing that anymore. And I don't know how valuable they are either necessarily, if I'm being honest, but they can be. I mean, they could, the best question asked, would you rehire him if he was in front of you today? I don't think you can get in trouble for answering that either way. So,
Yeah, the other thing that the question that we do in the interview, which I think we'll talk just in a second about interviews, but I think the most valuable question that we ask in that interview is, what is your last employer going to say about you when we call them? And then we get generally an honest answer because they know we are calling, and we do
Mhm.
call. And other things in the interview, and I don't know your process. So we do an interview and then we do a ride along.
Yeah.
The ride along is just a couple of hours, and basically I just want to know if they can like follow simple directions, and
Well,
you can
and
pretty
not
much
for nothing
tell.
too. I do the same thing. One of the guys called me the next day, and he's like, you know what? I can't see myself doing this. And
Good. Yeah.
that's the best call. You think it's the worst call, but it's truly the best call because ultimately,
Yes.
you would have piddled away, $400, $500 or more, on that person to get him started to find out 2 weeks later he's quitting on you because you're not making any money off the
Yeah.
guy in a couple weeks. It takes you a month to start making money off of him, or 3 weeks.
The worst is when they start, they work for 2 weeks, and you know that they've been looking for a job the whole time because then they just don't show
Right,
up.
right.
And you were literally just they were so broke that they had to have
Yep,
something.
yep.
And that is
And
the
that's a
worst.
reality. I
So
think workers nowadays, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are. Everybody wants to work from home. Everybody wants to hand it to them. Everybody wants this and that and the other thing. Not a lot of bin cleaners that can work from home. I mean, you
yeah.
can. You're just doing 2 bins every month, and it's your own. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah. So what's
Well, you can walk across the street, I guess. Is that still
five,
considered working from
five
home?
rounds? You've mentioned that before in other podcasts.
Five.
You could do a 5 round. You could roll them to your house from 2 doors down. I suppose. Yeah, you could have 5 or 7 clients, and it could
Yeah,
work out. Um,
yeah, you can
so
work.
so you mentioned that so you get through and you've gone through the interview. You've done some of your review, not reviews, reference checks. What does that offer look like? How formal is that? Is that just hey, we'll give you X number of dollars, or do you guys go crazy formal?
We actually do a written offer letter. And the reason is because we feel like that it's important that they know everything, and there's no, oh, you didn't tell me that.
Hmm.
We put everything in writing, what they're going to get paid, the schedule, the expectations, that there's a 90-day probationary period. And we just put it all in writing to where there's no, oh, I didn't know about that in a month. Do you do something like that, or are you just kind of the spiffy bin wing it style of
Yeah,
thing?
no, I mean, I don't know how intense it is. It's basically just a one page, half a page type of deal. We have a similar thing where they get paid a certain amount in the beginning, and then after 2 or 3 months they get a bump, and typically again after another 6 months after that. So we try to get them up there fairly quickly. But also I want to make sure that we have opportunities to part ways if necessary. And so our first thing is that ride along, right? That ride along is, typically I'll throw them a gift card or something. I don't know. I don't just for that quick, 2 or 3 hour one that you talk about. And it's always with me, at least currently. I'd like to get to the point where it's not always going to be with me, but right now and probably for the foreseeable future, it'll be with me, and that's fine. And then week two we'll do. So that's the first day, and then usually my week two is usually their first week, right? I mean, however you call it. And they'll run with me, like I had mentioned. I'll do 2 days with them, then they'll do 2 days driving, kind of get through the comfort of things. Usually, honestly, in those 4 days, you kind of see, I don't know, you see 80% of it, of what you're going to see on a daily basis. You'll pull up to full binge, you'll pull up to paint in the binge, you'll pull up to grass in the binge, you'll pull up to no binge, you'll pull up to can't find the binge, you'll pull up to the door answer, like all the things. You're pretty much going to find that in 4 days of running. And then, weeks 2 or 3 through 4 or 5, they're probably running a, I don't know, 60% route ish, I would say, if I had to put numbers to it. And, we're checking in. A lot of times they're with customers that are longtime customers. So, I mean, frankly, I'll call them and say, hey, it's Mike, how you been? Whatever, people that I remember, how'd your bins turn out? Or I'll just take the run, I'll run and do my inspection. I usually do both, but I'll run behind them after I see they checked it off in Jobber. I'll roll up 15 minutes later, were they placed in the right spot? Were they this? Were they that? But I'll tell you what, and I don't know how you are, but and I'm sure probably similar. Our clients are not afraid to say things aren't like this normally. Can can you explain this, or can you help me with that? And that's what I tell the guys. I said the hardest part, honestly, about working for a small business is the owner has done that job more than you'll probably ever do it. So like you can't, nothing can get by me. You can't trick me. You can't, and if the bins aren't as good as I would do them, then you're probably not doing it right, or whatever. I don't know what the right way to say that is, but your thoughts,
Yeah,
experiences?
so we I think that the first day is actually where you set the tone for their entire working relationship with you. And I don't know about you, but well, I mean, if they're riding with you, that's one thing. So, me not being in a truck very often anymore, we've actually taken our best driver and made him a driver trainer. And um, we put them with him and we put them out there and they do 2 days with him. And then, depending on how they're doing, they may do a third day with him. And then we put them on their own for a day. And then we put them with him again.
Okay.
So that's what their first week looks like. And on the day that they're on their own, they have a reduced route, but it kind of brings all the problems to the surface and they know more what they're looking for from him and get to ask questions. And then the second week, we put them on a route by themselves and see what happens. And then we will make room for him to ride with them again if need be. And there have been times where we've actually had our fleet guy ride with them as well. If there's equipment, if they're having a tough time with equipment for some reason, we'll have him ride with them and see what's going on. Recently, I had a guy that we hired that, man, it seemed like every time he took a truck, something broke. I was like, come on, we got to figure this
Yeah.
out. And so we went and I had Tom, who's our fleet guy, ride with him, and after a day, suddenly things weren't breaking anymore. So, and there's still going to be a little bit of that. And I don't know that it was necessarily anything that he was
Yeah.
doing wrong. It just that
Luck of the draw.
we do things different.
Yeah.
And so, um, you know, and generally, if we get someone past the first 30 days, they're going to stick.
Right. Right.
It's it's rare that we have someone that comes and works the first 30 days and then takes off and leaves. Um, as far as the quality assurance that you mentioned, we do that on all of our drivers continuously. We do it a little more than normal with a new
Mhm.
driver, but one of the things, and I've told our trainer to let them know that, you know, Ben and Lisa will be behind looking at cans. That's what they do. They will come and look, and if they're not done right, they will definitely let you
Yeah.
know. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's not going to be a secret.
Well, I think there's that.
So,
How about the positive things, right? Because we're all not we companies, businesses, owners, whatever, are very quick to talk about the bad. How do you mitigate that with, hey, this is great, that kind of thing.
well, I mean, I forget what book it was. I think it's Buy Back Your Time says one of the quotes that I say quite a bit is 80% done by someone else is 100% awesome. And I firmly believe that. So, while I want the quality up and I want all of that, it is pretty nice to be able to have four trucks on a route and be either at home working on a different project that I want to work on, or maybe just going to lunch. I mean, I've been to lunch with friends that are like, man, that's awesome. I left my job. I'm not making money to have lunch with you. You're here having lunch with me and you're still making
Well,
money.
that's the piece. That's
So,
the piece that it might take a minute for you to figure out. Because what'll happen, what happened to me, I mean, somewhat, not really though. You get to a point where you're running 40 stops, right? 40 stops we learned in a previous episode is 900 to 1200. And you're going to run 8.5 hours to do it. And you're an old guy like me or Ben. And you're going to be tired.
oh, come
I know, right? And you're going to be tired. And you're going to be like, but I just made $1,400. But did you? You really didn't, right? So
right.
you made whatever you could pay somebody to do that job. So let's say you hire somebody and they'll run it and you end up paying them after all your fees and your workers' comp and all that stuff. It costs you $150 or $180. Well, if you take that same, $1,400 and you subtract 180, you made, you quote made, all you were paying yourself in essence was the 180 you saved on the guy. You still make that extra. That extra comes into the business. I mean, of course, you're not walking with all of that because there's all those fees that we talk about. But at the end of the day, you have to decide. Ultimately, if you're out running a route and you could have somebody doing it for $150 or $180 a day, you're only making $150 to $180 a day. In reality, so I
Well, I would argue that point with you. And the reason is because while I understand the concept that you're talking about with, okay, I'm paying someone this, so that's I could go do it and save that money and therefore I made that money. What could you do with that time? If you're paying someone, and I'll just throw a number out there, if you're paying someone $20 an hour to go do something for you, rather than you doing that, you're not making the $20 an hour. You should be finding something that makes you
oh
$100 an hour and working on
yeah, I
that.
think I think maybe you missed. My point was if I'm out doing the route, all I really am earning is that $20 an hour.
Exactly.
That's what I was trying to get
Exactly.
across. I may not have done it well,
Okay.
but yeah, but so
Okay.
effectively you made $160 that day just running the route when you could really be paying somebody to do that and then go out and find, an HOA deal or a pressure washing job or a this or a that. Oh yeah, yeah. No, you and I are on the same page. I think just got missed in the
Yeah.
translation.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the mindset that you got to get around is, oh, I'm doing this and I'm making money. Well, no, you could be making, instead of doing that $20 an hour job, you should be doing the
Well,
$100 an
at the end
hour
of the day,
job
you're
or the
making
two.
the money by having the guys out there, in
Exactly.
essence. So
Exactly. And the bottom line is in the spot that you and I are in right now. I mean, I I couldn't go and do all the stops that I do. I have to have
Hmm. Oh yeah,
team.
oh yeah. Hard to have one guy replace
So
four trucks. Absolutely.
right, right. So what are some red flags that you look for that tell you that it's not working, and what do you do to act on those quickly? And
Well, one of the favorite quotes was hire slow, fire fast. In essence, take your time going through your due diligence to figure out if the person's going to be a good fit. Do those ride-alongs that cost you time and money to do them, and check the references and check the drug tests and check the this and start them off slow. But if you start to see a problem, mm, you know, mm, maybe we need to get rid of him real quick, because if you don't, that person could be a cancer to your organization. They could just be another worry that they're not going to show up. They could put a kibosh on your whole day where you were going to go out and talk to HOA managers for the whole day or something, and instead you got to jump in a truck because they didn't show. All sorts of things. So, give them a real documented conversation and just say, hey, I don't know how it worked at your previous jobs, but that's not how we're going to do it here, or not how we do it here. So, and then if it doesn't change, let them go quickly, professionally, and without guilt. We've all had to do it. It's not comfortable. I know, you've had your instances. I've had mine. But at the end of the day, it's real uncomfortable. Like, you think it's uncomfortable letting the person go. It's real uncomfortable if you keep them or keep them.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that's for sure. So, Mike, I'm going to give an action step, which is something that we try to do on each episode here. Um, I think the action step for this episode should be, if you're hiring now or planning to hire in the next 6 months or even a year, I think that you should write your job post this week. Not because you're posting it, but because it forces you to get clear on exactly what you're looking for, who you're looking for, what success looks like in that role. And it also gives you a chance to clarify as you're doing that job, okay, what are the expectations here? If you already have teammates on board, then and honestly, I would still rewrite whatever my job ad was and get clearer on it. But the other thing is, if you have teammates on board already, take a look at it and see what your onboarding process is. Do you have a checklist, an SOP that says, okay, you know what, they fill out this paperwork, check. They get their uniform, check. They ride with this person for this many days, and here's the checklist of what we go through. So that, do you have a training document? If you don't, work on that documentation. And it doesn't cost you anything, but it will make it to where that when you hire, you have a better chance of it going your way. Anything you'd add to that, Mike?
I don't even know why you come to me with after that. Those are perfect. That's perfect. That's a perfect example. Perfect, thing. And if nothing else, it gets the ball rolling towards that goal. Right? I mean,
Exactly.
you're going, oh man, I mean, this would be great if I had a Sally that did this, or if I had a John that did that, or what have you. And I can tell you from experience, it is great. Is it a little daunting to have payroll that you gotta, that you gotta come up with? Yeah, it can be. But I think done properly and planned accordingly, it's not as painful as you might think, because fortunately you are on the route to revenue, and you've got incoming. Yeah, like that. That's good. That's slick. You've got incoming, recurring, you know, revenue that's coming in, whether as long as you do a good job or your people do a good job. Now that could be a whole nother episode. Once you've got your first hire, what do you do? How do you ensure? We touched on it, but there's a whole thing that to try to get what you do and put it onto somebody else is often difficult too. So, but yeah, awesome job. Love it, Ben.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. And again, if you like it, if you enjoy it, certainly give us a like, subscribe, reach out to your friends, tell everybody. We would love the assistance there. So thank you so much. Ben, have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, Ben, that's a wrap on another episode of The Route to Revenue. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would hit like, subscribe, and leave us old guys a comment about what we did well. And if we did anything wrong, can it and keep it to yourself.
If today's strategy sparked some ideas for your business, don't keep them to yourself. Share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur who could benefit from these insights.
Remember, building a recurring revenue business, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Take one actionable step from today's discussion and implement it in your business this week.
Want to connect with us between episodes? Find us on Facebook or at our website. We'd love to hear how you're applying these concepts in your own home service business.
And until next time, keep building those recurring revenue streams and stay on the route to revenue.
The route to revenue.
Nice, Ben.